Okay, so again, like I told you, this chapter is kind of a rando kind of chapter because not every day is going to be the same. So we spent the last couple of days talking about systems of equations, but today and tomorrow we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about something called proportional and non-proportional. Now these actually should be familiar because you do talk about it in 7th grade, more specifically proportional, actually both. But if you don't remember what they mean, let's break it down. So proportional, to be proportional, and I'm not just talking about proportions like, cross, multiply, divide. Proportional on a graph is whenever a straight line is going through the origin. So it has to be a straight line through the origin, which is 0, 0. And when we do our calculator regression, we have to know that the calculator means is whenever the y-intercept is 0. That's the b value, when the b is 0, because that means it's going through the origin. Okay. And then if I look at non-proportional, well, it's just the opposite. So if it's not straight, that means it's curved or not a straight line. And then proportional means goes through the origin. Well, non-proportional means it does not go through the origin. And then proportional means the y-intercept is 0. Well, if I do the calculator regression, the y-intercept is not 0. And of course, this probably doesn't make sense as I'm saying it, but I'm going to break it down as we go through. So let's look at number 1. Okay, and I'm actually going to do all of the graphs at the same time, all of the tables at the same time, equations, just so we're not going back and forth and I can break it down, okay? So starting with number 1. So this one's a little tricky because we're so used to the origin being the center of the graph, whereas the origin now is in that bottom left corner. So if I look at it, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Is it a straight line? It is. Does it go through the origin, which is that center corner or that bottom corner? And it does. So since it meets both of that criteria, it is called proportional. So I'm just going to put P for proportional. Not too bad, right? There's no math whatsoever on those. We'll look at number 3. What if I do shift it to where it looks like a traditional graph? So remember, the origin is the center. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Is it a straight line? It is. Does it go through the origin? It does not. So it has to meet both criteria for it to be proportional. So this would be non-proportional. If I look at number 5, okay, I'm going to ask you the same 2 questions. Is it a straight line? No. Automatically makes it non-proportional. Doesn't even matter if it went through the origin, which this one doesn't anyway, so it doesn't meet both criteria. It has to be a straight line through the origin. If I look at number 9, is it a straight line? Yes. Does it go through the origin? No, because that's the bottom left corner. So this is also non-proportional. If I look at number 11, is it a straight line? Yes. Does it go through the origin? Yes. So since it meets both criteria, proportional. So that's what it looks like on a graph, okay? I'm going to go through and look at the equations. So I'm going to skip to number 6. Y'all should be familiar with this. If you remember, y equals mx plus b, the number next to x is your slope, and the b value is your y-intercept. We'll look at number 6. 4.5 is the slope. Does it have a y-intercept? Well, what do we imply that the y-intercept is if it doesn't have a number? Not a 1, a 0. Well, is the y-intercept 0? It is. So this is proportional. If I look at number 7, same thing. The 7 is the slope and the -1 is the y-intercept. Well, is the y-intercept 0? No, it's -1. That means it's not going to go through the origin, which means it's non-proportional. And that's how you do equations. I'm going to go back to word problems. So this is looking for those clue words that we've talked about. Per, each, every, rate, times, of, and, if you can't find those other 5. But if I read number 2, it says the weight in X weeks of a puppy that gains 2 pounds per week if its starting weight is 8 pounds. So what's the clue word? Or sorry, what are the 2 numbers? We have 2 and 8. Which one is the clue word? Per. So 2 is your slope. And that makes the y-intercept 8. Well, if we already said that the y-intercept is something other than 0, it's non-proportional. If I look at number 10, it says the number of gallons of water in X barrels with 42 gallons of water in each barrel. Well, 42 is the only number listed. It has the clue word each, so that's your slope. And since there's not a second number listed, we can assume that the y-intercept is 0, which makes it proportional. Now, the only ones that require some calculator are the tables. Y'all are familiar with this. We're going to go to Stat, Edit, and we're going to type in the, We're going to type in the X's on the left and the Y's on the right. And then you do Stat Calc 4 for linear regression. Now, what I'm focusing on here is just the y-intercept, not the slope, the y-intercept only, which is the b value. And since the b value is something other than 0, that means it's non-proportional. So So if I do the same thing for number 8, again, this time my X's are the numbers on the top, and those go on the left side. And I look at this, remember I only focus on the y-intercept, and since the y-intercept is 1, that's non-proportional. Last one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, oops. You've got to watch out for decimals here, so make sure that you type each one in carefully. Now this time the y-intercept is 0, which makes that proportional. So the difference between the two, if I lost you on any of that, make sure you rewatch the video so you understand it.